The attorney's conference room overlooked downtown Minneapolis through floor-to-ceiling windows. Afternoon sunlight caught the dust particles floating above the mahogany table where my grandfather's will lay open. The estate totals $4.2 million, Mr. Stevenson said, adjusting his bifocals. Properties in Edina and Lake Minnetonka, investment portfolio and liquid assets. Per your grandfather's instructions, this divides equally among 3 grandchildren. My grandmother Eleanor sat at the head of the table, spine rigid, her 78 years evident only in the careful way she'd positioned her cane against her chair. She still played tennis twice weekly at the club. That's incorrect, she said sharply. Stevenson glanced at his documents. Mrs. Whitmore, your husband's will is quite clear. I don't care what that paper says. Mark needs capital for his real estate expansion. Lisa's husband is unemployed with 3 children. They need this money. She turned her pale blue eyes on me. Jennifer makes plenty as a doctor. She doesn't need inheritance. I kept my voice level. I'm here because grandfather asked me to ensure his wishes were honored, not to argue about need. Your grandfather was sentimental, Eleanor said. Practical matters require practical solutions. Mark, my cousin, leaned forward. Jen, be reasonable. You're pulling in what, $200,000 a year at the hospital? Lisa and I actually need this. My income isn't the point, I said. Grandfather divided it equally for a reason. Eleanor's knuckles whitened on her cane handle. This discussion is over. Mr. Stevenson, I want the will contested on grounds of undue influence. Mrs. Whitmore, your husband was of sound mind when. Find a way. She stood with practiced grace. Everyone out, except Jennifer. Lisa grabbed her purse quickly. Mark followed. Stevenson hesitated at the door. Mrs. Whitmore, perhaps it's better if I stay. Leave us. The door clicked shut. The room suddenly felt smaller. Eleanor moved to the window silhouetted against the skyline. Your grandfather spoiled you. Always his favorite. He loved all 3 of us. He pitied you. So serious, so cold. She turned always with your head in medical books instead of finding a suitable husband. I stayed seated. This conversation isn't productive. Mark's business is failing. He's borrowed against everything. Lisa's children need private school tuition. Her voice rose. They need this money to survive. Then they'll receive their thirds, $1.4 million each. And what will you do with yours? Add it to your doctor's salary? She stepped closer. You're being selfish. I'm honoring what grandfather wanted. What he wanted. Eleanor's face flushed. I was married to that man for 52 years. I know what he wanted. He wanted his family taken care of according to their needs. He wrote the will 3 months before he died. His mind was clear. Because you manipulated him. Her hand shook on the cane. Visiting him every week at the end. Whispering in his ear. I visited because I loved him. You get nothing. She lunged forward faster than I expected. Both hands hit my chest. I stumbled backward. The fireplace was directly behind me. My head struck the marble mantel corner. Left side just above my ear. The sound echoed through the conference room. A wet crack like a tree branch snapping. My vision went white, then red. I slid down the mantel onto the Persian rug. Warm liquid spread through my hair. Eleanor stood over me, breathing hard. You should have listened. I pressed my hand to my head. It came away crimson. The pain arrived in waves. Deep, nauseating throbs. Call 911. I managed. No police. This was an accident. I reached for my phone in my jacket pocket. My fingers were slippery with blood. The door burst open. Stevenson stood in the threshold. Face white. My God, what happened? She fell, Eleanor said quickly. She got dizzy and fell. I heard you scream at her. He rushed to my side, pulling his phone. Don't move, I'm calling for help. The room tilted. I forced myself to focus. To assess. Medical training overriding panic. Parietal bone. I could feel the depression in my skull beneath the laceration. Linear fracture. Approximately 6 centimeters. Scalp arterial bleed. Significant volume loss. Possible epidural hematoma. Need imaging immediately. Stay with me, Stevenson said. Ambulance is coming. Eleanor sank into a chair. She's fine. She's exaggerating. The room grayed at the edges. Sirens approached. Paramedics came through in a blur of navy uniforms and equipment bags. Young guy, maybe 25, knelt beside me. Can you tell me your name? Dr. Jennifer Whitmore. Parietal skull fracture. Left side. GCS 14. I'm chief of orthopedics at Memorial Hospital. He paused. You're a doctor. Trauma orthopedics. Take me to Memorial. Alert their trauma team. His partner, an older woman, stabilized my cervical spine. We're going to move you carefully. They lifted me onto the backboard. Eleanor watched from her chair. Silent now. In the ambulance I stayed conscious through force of will. The paramedic radioed ahead. Female, 45, significant head trauma. Patient is chief of orthopedic surgery at Memorial. ETA 6 minutes. The ER at Memorial was controlled chaos when we arrived. The trauma bay doors opened and I recognized the faces immediately. These were colleagues I worked with daily. Marcus Webb, the ER attending, appeared at my side. Dr. Whitmore. What the hell happened? Assault. Pushed into Fireplace Mantel. My grandmother. Over estate inheritance. His expression hardened. Get CT and skull film stat. Page neurosurgery. They transferred me to the trauma table. Hands cut away my blood-soaked blazer and blouse. The overhead lights were too bright. Dr. Sarah Kim from radiology appeared. We'd reviewed cases together 100 times. Now she was looking at my fractured skull on her screen. Jennifer, I have to ask for the record. Was this assault? Yes. I'm required to report it. I know. The CT scanner was cold. The machine whirred around my head, capturing images of bone fragments, blood, damage. Back in the trauma bay, the images populated monitors throughout the room. Dr. Webb traced the fracture line on the screen. Linear parietal fracture, 6 centimeters, small epidural hematoma. We'll watch it. Scalp lac needs 12 staples. Prognosis? I asked. You'll be fine. Mild concussion. The hematoma should resolve on its own. He paused. But this fracture pattern. It's consistent with significant force against a fixed edge. Marble fireplace mantel corner. He nodded slowly. The report will reflect assault-related injury. The imaging automatically flagged in the hospital system. Patient, staff, physician. Injury assault-related. The notification went out instantly to administrators, department heads, and because it was a skull fracture treated by orthopedics, all 14 surgeons in my department. My phone in the belongings bag started buzzing continuously. Dr. Kevin Mitchell arrived first. He was my senior surgeon, 52, built like a linebacker. He'd trained me when I was a resident. Jen? He saw the staples they were putting in my scalp. Jesus Christ. I'm okay, Kevin. Who did this? My grandmother. Estate dispute. Your grandmother. He stared. How old? 78. Still plays tennis. More surgeons appeared. Dr. Amy Rodriguez. Dr. James Park. Within 30 minutes, 8 of my 14 orthopedic surgeons were standing in or around the trauma bay. The police arrived while they were stapling my head closed. Detective Morrison was methodical, taking my statement word by word. Your grandmother pushed you into a fireplace. Marble mantle, corner edge, left parietal impact. Over inheritance money. My grandfather's will divides $4.2 million equally among 3 grandchildren. She wanted to change it to exclude me. Where is she now? I gave him her address in Edina. Dr. Mitchell stood with arms crossed while I answered questions. When Morrison left, he looked at the x-rays on the monitor. That fracture pattern, he said quietly. I've seen it in assault cases, domestic violence, bar fights. He met my eyes. This is attempted murder, Jen. It's assault. She fractured your skull. Dr. Rodriguez joined us. The department is drafting a letter to the DA. All 14 of us are signing. We want full prosecution. You don't need to. Yes, we do, Mitchell said. You're our chief. Someone attacked you. We're not letting that slide. At Eleanor's house in Edina, she was scrubbing blood out of her carpet when police knocked. According to the arrest report, she answered the door with cleaning gloves still on. Mrs. Eleanor Whitmore. Yes. You're under arrest for assault causing bodily harm. That's absurd. I'm 78 years old. My granddaughter fell. We have a witness who heard you scream at her before the impact. Your granddaughter has a fractured skull. Please turn around. The handcuffs clicked over her thin wrists. The booking photo showed her still perfectly composed, silver hair immaculate, pearls at her throat. Bail was set at $75,000. She posted it within 3 hours, using estate funds. I spent one night in the hospital for observation. The hematoma was stable. The concussion symptoms, headache, nausea, light sensitivity, were manageable. Kevin visited before I was discharged. The letter went to the DA this morning. All 14 signatures. Thank you. We've also covered your surgery schedule for the next 3 weeks. Rodriguez is taking the complex reconstructions. Park has the trauma cases. You focus on healing. I appreciate it. He looked uncomfortable. There's something else. The hospital legal team wants to meet with you. They're considering a civil suit against your grandmother for workplace impact. That seems excessive. You're the chief of a major department, Jen. You were assaulted and injured. There are institutional implications. He squeezed my shoulder. Let them handle it. Mark called my cell that afternoon. Jen, this is insane. Grandma's been arrested. She fractured my skull. Mark, she's an old woman. She didn't mean. She pushed me into a marble fireplace and left me bleeding, while trying to stop me from calling 911. Silence. Then the attorney says the assault charge might void her ability to contest the will. That's not my concern. But if the will goes through as written, you'll get exactly what grandfather intended. $1.4 million. Same as me and Lisa. Jen, I'm sorry about what happened. But maybe you could talk to the prosecutor. Ask them to reduce charges. I hung up. The preliminary hearing was brief. Eleanor's attorney argued for reduced charges, based on her age and lack of criminal history. The prosecutor presented the medical evidence. X-rays of my fractured skull on a projector screen. The radiology report citing assault-related cranial injury. Photographs of blood on the marble mantel. Then he presented the letter from my department. 14 orthopedic surgeons. All experts in bone fractures. All colleagues of the victim. All demanding full prosecution. The judge denied the motion to reduce charges. Eleanor's attorney offered a plea deal. Guilty plea to assault causing bodily harm. 18-month suspended sentence. 3 years probation. Mandatory counseling. Permanent restraining order. And forfeiture of any right to challenge the estate distribution. She took it. Avoiding trial meant avoiding the publicity of 14 medical professionals testifying against her. The estate settled exactly as my grandfather had written it. $1.4 million to each grandchild. I met with my financial advisor a week after the plea was finalized. What do you want to do with the inheritance? She asked. I'd been thinking about it since the assault. About Eleanor's hands pushing me. About the crack of bone. About 8 surgeons showing up at the hospital because someone had hurt their colleague. Donate it to Memorial Hospital. Establish a fund for assault recovery treatment, specifically for victims of family violence. The entire $1.4 million. Yes, that's incredibly generous. It's incredibly necessary. The Harrison Family Violence Recovery Fund was established 3 months later. It covered medical treatment, counseling and legal support for victims assaulted by family members. Eleanor served her probation in silence. The restraining order meant we never spoke again. Mark's real estate business stabilized with his inheritance. Lisa put her kids through private school. I returned to work after 3 weeks. The headaches persisted for 2 months, but gradually faded. The first day back, all 14 surgeons were waiting in the conference room. They stood when I entered. Kevin spoke for the group. Welcome back, Chief. The applause was brief but genuine. I touched the small scar hidden in my hairline. Thank you. Now let's review this week's cases. 6 months later, I was teaching a resident how to repair a tibial plateau fracture. Complex case, multiple fragments. Dr. Whitmore, the resident asked. How do you assess whether a fracture was traumatic or pathologic? I positioned the bone fragments on the imaging screen. You look at the force pattern, the direction of impact, whether the bone could have broken that way accidentally, or whether it required deliberate force. The resident nodded, taking notes. I didn't mention that I'd learned that lesson on a Persian rug, blood pooling beneath my fractured skull, while my grandmother watched. Some fractures are pathologic, bones breaking from disease or weakness. Some are traumatic, bones breaking from external force. And some are intentional, bones broken by people who should have protected them. The X-rays don't lie. Neither do the 14 surgeons who reviewed them.